Everything was done in secret. I was by myself. I felt like there was no way out. My drinking and drug usage, it wasn't okay with anyone in my life. My parents, my friends, anyone. The way that I used was in a class of its own and unacceptable to others. So I was just isolated, no friends, living at home at my parents', depressed about the way my life was going. It was going nowhere. I was basically on my way to die before I came into the Progress House. It was just a matter of time. I would be in school and I would have an important assignment coming up, a final to study for, and I would continue to put it off, and I know that crunch time, the due date is tomorrow, and I would end up drinking the entire day just because I couldn't fight that urge off. And that's something today that I look back and it just, I understand it because of the disease, but it still has that shock factor, that I would allow that to happen. Something that's so important to me, my upbringing, school. We always try our hardest. It's kind of instilled in us when we were young, to give it our all and do the best we can. I have a grandfather who said, set the goal, pay the price, and it's yours, and that was kind of always my mentality, but totally strayed away from that.
He said he was going out that night. He said, so about what time will halftime be? I'll be home for halftime. So we told him, and halftime happened, and Joey didn't come home, and I go, it's halftime, Joey isn't home. And David said, oh, he'll be home in just a little bit. And then the phone rang, and it was with him, the hospital calling.
He told us he was going to an AA meeting.
He said he was going to go. He was going to hit 3 AA meetings in a row in Indianapolis with friends, and then he'd be back in time.
Obviously, he didn't do any of that.
I was just praying the whole time. Please, God, don't let Joey die. Don't let Joey die. I'll do anything. I'll do anything. We love him too much. We can't let him die.
And
what can we do?
I thought we had lost him that night.
And our other son came from Southport with his 3-year-old autistic son and his wife, 2 o'clock in the morning. That we're a close family. His sister is an anesthesiologist. She met us at Methodist, and she said, I don't know what to do. I'm just here for you guys. It was just unbelievable. And I told my husband, I don't know what you're thinking, but I can't let him come home again. I can't go through this again. We've got to find a place for him. We're just not helping him at all.
And it took us 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
During that time, we found the Progress House.
Yeah, my friend, she came over and she was on the internet. She's real internet savvy. She found Progress House, and I go, I don't want him to be downtown Indianapolis. That's not a good area or something. And she goes, Marianne, do you want him to have help? I go, yeah. She goes, I think this sounds good. Just go and look at it.
I never dreamed that a halfway house could turn my life around so much. I can honestly say right now that I'm happier than I've ever been in my entire life. I plugged in with a good group of guys. I have a solid recovery network. Before, I always separated Alcoholics Anonymous from the rest of my life. I kind of lived in I didn't want anybody to know, that I was in AA. I definitely wouldn't have done a video like this, but now I have some of the best friends I've ever had in my life. I would do anything for them, and I know that they would do anything for me. My parents are here, they're meeting some of them. It means a lot to me for them to come in and say hey to my parents. These are guys that I would do anything for, but that's been the biggest thing, because with these guys I'm able to go out and have fun and be sober.
Thank goodness that he's been able to turn that around. So we're so thankful for the Progress House, and we're so proud of him for doing the program.
I lived at Progress House for almost 1.5 years, and during that time I got to see exactly how guys stayed sober. I got to see guys get up in the morning, go to work, and come back and find out they got fired that day. which is probably new for us early in recovery. We know why we get fired. But to get fired sober, that's new. But to get fired sober and still stay sober and stay on the horse and figure out why you got fired, which is probably one of your character defects, and to work on that character defect so it doesn't happen again, and then stay sober. I got to see that. Now I got to see that because I've developed a relationship with these guys. You know, we don't pass in the hall and say, hey, how you doing? They don't let you do that here. You know, you may come here wanting to be a wallflower and a stick to yourself in the corner guy, but you won't last here long if that's what you're going to do.
Addiction recovery requires huge amounts of personal accountability. And if we take away the personal accountability, even though we're all broken vessels, you won't have the whole person that you need in order to mend those broken relationships that come about as a result of addiction. We're talking about over 50 years of results. That's what we're seeing with the Progress House. So over 5 decades of repairing, remending, recalibrating broken human spirit and helping to deal with addictions head on is so critically important. I think the Progress House has a story that is untold.
As a mission, you're saving the city tons of money. You probably never could figure out how much but if you don't provide a place for some people, eventually they're going to wind up in the Marion County Jail, which is not a good place for recovery. Progress House is much, much better.
I don't know that you have any alternatives, do you? In other words, I don't know many organizations that deal with this sort of thing. You can get to a doctor or a hospital, I suppose, or a clinic or something, and pay out pay through the year, pay exorbitant fees, and etc. But you've got almost a novel, almost an invention here, it seems to me. It's a community of guys, almost like a monastery. They all have a similar problem and a similar challenge. And I think there's probably a lot of working together, a lot of changing of stories, a lot of advice and counsel, a lot of picking up and patting on the back, and a lot of mutual encouragement that people don't get anyplace else. I think it's novel, and it's a ministry, in essence, that is serving all of society if you are indeed keeping people from going off the deep end. So you're working not just for them, but for us as well. You're keeping
Our jails are full of addicts, and I'm not convinced that that's where they belong. If they have an addiction problem, let's fix it from a medical perspective. I'm not sure prisons and jails are set up necessarily to accommodate those kinds of medical issues. So I'm convinced that if we look at it more as a public health issue, as an illness, as opposed to a crime, then maybe we can find a better way to fix these ills of our societies. I'm proud to be associated, just loosely, with the Progress House. I see firsthand the devastation that addiction brings to individuals, to families, to communities. And working hard with individuals who are here and making their lives better to help them become the full potential that they are, the full individuals that they can be. I think Progress House deserves a great pat on the back, and I hope that they can continue for another 50 years.